What frustrates me, Luke, is we couldn't come up with $100 billion out of a $47 trillion budget in savings. I don't want to pretend that this is going to create economic growth and jobs, because I really don't think it will.
Let's bring back our panel, David Drucker, Karen Finney, and Manu Raju. And Manu, that seems to be a standard viewpoint for a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill. Obviously, they conceded earlier in this week saying the $100 billion payroll tax extension can go for unfunded. But they don't see a lot of positive economic growth for this. They're sort of taking this not with a lot of excitement.
Look, the Republicans have sort of been twisted in knots in this debate over the last several months. I mean, you've seen House Republicans and Senate Republicans split back in December when there was a fight over whether to extend this for a year or simply do it for 2 months. This was a deal that was cut by House Speaker John Boehner, as well as his top tax writer. But Senate Republicans didn't sign on to this deal yesterday. The people who were a part of that conference.
McConnell very quiet on this.
Very quiet. I mean, so I think when this is going to come to a vote today, you're not going to see many Republicans support this, at least in the Senate. And it's because there is just a fundamental split within the party about whether or not this is good policy. And hand on this.
David, you've watched the Hill recently in Congress over the last few years. This is the last thing they're really going to do in 2012.
Yeah, and even this, I mean, they're going to do a few things. There's a cybersecurity bill that's going to come up, and they're going to dabble in a few policy areas. But in terms of real hardcore political issues, this is about it. Republicans lost the politics on this, and they really lost it in December. But it was always, when Republicans are referring to a payroll tax holiday that they don't believe is a tax cut, they just don't, as a tax cut, that means Barack Obama won the rhetorical argument. And this is a get out of Dodge in terms of politics type of vote that we're going to see today. The reason you saw John Boehner, Kevin McCarthy, and Eric Cantor all basically say we're going to get this done is because there was an agreement, I think, in the House that even though people were going to complain about it, they all knew it was a losing issue. Right. And if they want to pivot to the general election, let's just get it done.
And that's why you're not going to see anything happening for the rest of the year. And there are big issues that are still hanging out there, like the Bush tax
cuts. We're having hearings on contraception. I'm not sure that this is the last thing we're going to see. I actually think that they will continue to abuse their power and hold these hearings on some of these issues.
This is the last real policy fight.
Hearings are different than real meaningful legislation.
I know that. Thank you for explaining. But my point is, I think they're still going to try to use their power and the opportunity to push messages. And I think they realized this was a losing message. I mean, they got pushed right into the corner on this one. And it was, so you're for tax breaks for wealthy people, but you're not for tax breaks for middle-income people.
And you'll see Democrats push those messaging votes, too, including pushing for the expiration of the top income tax.
Look, Mitt Romney's the top of the ticket. They're also going to have to defend that as part of their economic policy and defend sort of where he is in the 1% as part of the Republican approach to the economic policy.
David, close this out.
There are no good options right now for Republicans on this particular issue. Either one of their presidential candidates, or three for that matter, pose problems and potential strengths for them. And I think that what they wanted to do was just at least put this vote behind them and move on to what they all expected was it's a messaging year, and there's a chance we could ultimately win the broad closing message, if not this particular message.
It's interesting. People now in Capitol Hill, they fight to the bitter end, not necessarily about the legislation, but about the messaging. So as soon as the messaging is lost, then it's time to concede.
At least recess wasn't canceled.
That's right. An achievement. Indeed. Real quick, shameless plugs. David Drucker, what do we got?
Something in Tuesday's roll call, taking a look at a turf war on cybersecurity, which you would think would be bipartisan, but another problem.
Wow, shocker.
As a member of the board of NARAL, I would say NARAL, Planned Parenthood, a whole coalition fighting to preserve contraceptive rights for women in preventive health care services.
That message will get a lot of traction this week.
And I have two shameless plugs.
Oh, my goodness.
One story they did today in Politico about Scott Brown trying to court the Irish vote back home. Another one, a story with the great John Bresnahan, my colleague, about Harry Reid's future as a Democratic leader. He's sending out signals that he'd stay on, even in a Democratic minority.
A John Bresnahan reference on national TV. God bless you. Thanks so much for all you guys for being here. That's it for this edition of the Daily Rundown. Have a great weekend. Chuck Todd will be right back.